Cosplay is something that takes me away from the real world for like a very short while, but it gives me that time, and it's also a very like shape-shifting hobby. It makes me see different faces of myself.
Sometimes when I get in a costume and there's this little kid who just loves Superman or Spider-Man or Wolverine, and then they see you, that character, come to life. I mean, just being able to connect with that child and making them smile, it's just, there's no way to really explain it. And that's what cosplay brings to me. It helps me make people happy. That's what I want to do.
Hi, I'm Ria, and I'm a second-year mass communication student in Republic Polytechnic.
My name is Alicia. I'm 30 years old. I'm a professional dancer. I teach ballet, jazz, hip-hop, breakdancing, acrobatics, salsa, contemporary. I do kids and I do adult classes.
I'm a DJ in Radio Heatwave, which is my school's campus radio station. So I learn about hosting and speech.
I've been in the cosplay community in Singapore for about 5+ years, but I've been cosplaying, give or take, for the past 10 over years, since I was about 16.
I first started cosplaying when I went to AFA 2013, and then I bumped into Rie, and then apparently she was cosplaying there. Slowly, we got into contact, and then she encouraged me to cosplay. It started growing exponentially. I think in the year 2012, a lot of people started cosplaying then.
And the local cosplay communities, for me, I mean, it's quite big. It's not as big as other places like, Japan or the US where, there's more people, but for a small island like Singapore, I think the scene is quite huge. And I mean, the community is, everybody knows everybody. I mean, you can't really cosplay without knowing each other. We all kind of cross paths all the time. I mean, these days there's a ton of events. I mean, there's an event, it seems like almost every month. I mean, two of the biggest ones are actually STGCC and CosFest Asia, which is actually the one where I use my Burritos costume at. I mean, if you really want to cosplay, there's tons of places where you can do it. And I know friends that even go to movie premieres dressed up in costume. So there's actually a huge difference between globally and locally. Locally, I mean, the scene is quite big here, I feel, especially for being such a small island. I mean, there's a lot of people in the community nowadays, and with a lot of the new things that have popped up, it's a lot more relevant.
In the US, there's over-westernization of characters, and because of dubbing and stuff like that. But I think generally our outlook and attitudes towards the culture is the same. I think I like characters with a unique ring to it, together with a lot of feels. I'm well known to cosplay a lot of characters that die or have a horribly sad storyline.
For instance, Deathstroke is one of my favorite characters because even though he's a hardcore mercenary killer, a lot of what he does is not specifically because he's a mercenary. There's a lot more to him. There's more to these characters than just meets the eye. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of, tragedy. There's personal torture. There's a lot of love and passion for what the individual characters do and why they do it. I do feel that there's a lot more people now that are learning to appreciate the different aspects of cosplay and what it is that we do. In particular, the costumes and the details themselves. I mean, a lot of people just when they're passing by, they can really see how much work and effort that's put behind the costumes, and most people are actually learning to appreciate the craftsmanship and the hard work we put into it.
Actually, a lot of people say that cosplayers are good at sewing, crafting, prop making, and costuming.
I mean, it is super expensive, especially when you're not actually building your own stuff. I mean, there are cosplayers that say it's really cheap, but it's really not. You have to have some money in your pocket to do it. And just learning the skills to be able to actually build the costumes and learning the techniques to put things together is really, really tough.
At times you realize that you don't have enough time to complete a costume, or you don't have enough materials, so you need to substitute and cut corners to find ways to make up for that.
For me personally, I like to build my costumes from the ground up, all the way from the guns and the boots all the way down to the helmet. So some of the things that are a little bit tough are actually, when you build a big piece of armor, like a chest piece or a shoulder piece, an arm piece, you actually have to make sure that it's mobile and it's actually functional.
At first my family thought it was very weird. And my mother was afraid that it would affect my studies, but it didn't. Like, I managed to manage my time, and eventually even my grades went up. I couldn't really care less about whether people didn't like the hobby that I was into or not, because like after a long time of switching hobbies here and there, I finally found like the one. So if anyone says that they feel that cosplay is hindering my growth in, let's say, my studies or my social life, I would prove that it does not by improving in that area.
Well, I mean, I'm really lucky. I've got a really good group of friends that, you know, I've known for a really long time and actually bad doing this. And, you know, they kind of helped me fix all the, you know, the issues and stuff I've got going on with all my costumes and whatnot. My wife's not a cosplayer, so she's not, you know, an avid cosplayer or anything, but she just really wants me to be happy. She wants me to be able to do the things that I like to do and, you know, be with her. And I mean, we're not the most, you know, conventional couple. We don't, you know, go our separate ways when we do something that we don't appreciate, you know, of each other and stuff like that. We just like spending time together.
People usually see like the bad side of cosplay in like an event setting. Like, there's a lot of cosplayers who just leave their rubbish behind at event halls. They litter a lot and they create a mess because some of them use body paint, so they end up like dirtying the walls and stuff. So like, but I know there's this other half cosplayers who very nicely just clean up other people's messes. So like, sadly, they only see half of it.
Well, I mean, for the most part, I think people just assume we're like weirdos that sit inside our mom's house and never leave the nest and, you know, are, you know, humongous losers. But for the most part, I mean, we're actually just cool people. I mean, I know a lot of working professionals that do it. I mean, I myself, I own my own business. You know, I've been a professional dancer for a long time. And, you know, I just think that we're regular people and we're not just, you know, closet freaks.
Usually, like, cosplayers don't really have a social life. Yeah, that's a pretty popular myth. I think it'll probably go up, but not as fast, because the older generation cosplayers are stepping down, then the newer ones are like starting a cosplay. So it's like that.
As long as there's new TV shows and, you know, new animes that come out, and, you know, the Japanese culture itself stays relevant in the world, there's always going to be a need and a want for it.
I improved in a lot of ways since the first time I started 2 years ago, in wig styling, in accuracy of my costume, makeup. It really makes or break it. So all of these take a lot of time.
Well, my biggest piece of advice is actually just, you know, find a character that you really like. You know, find someone that you think is really awesome and cool, and something that's going to be, you know, something that you actually want to build, or, you know, you want to start off buying and build your character from there.
Pretty time consuming, takes up a lot of time, a lot of energy to cosplay, but I still do it. And also it taught me a lot of empathy, a lot of how to put yourself in another's perspective, in someone else's shoes.
Personally, I don't really feel there are any real requirements. I mean, just as long as you love the character you're cosplaying, that's good enough for me. You don't have to have a fancy costume or all the money in the world to do it. Just as long as you enjoy it and you really have a passion for the character you're cosplaying, that's good enough for me.
Like, really, it's all about time and practice, and also just get someone to help you out, especially on your first baby steps.
There's a ton of YouTube videos nowadays where you can just, you know, Google it up and click it in. You know, you'll find the different techniques and the different aspects you'll learn. And I guess the biggest thing is actually just don't be afraid. You know, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna make, you know, stuff that looks dumb and just really, really bad, but you know what, who cares? I mean, it's just for fun. You know, go make friends. Making friends, you're gonna learn new things, you're gonna, you know, meet new people, and you're gonna get better as you go along. Everybody starts from somewhere, so nothing else, just go and make new friends.
The birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people